as big of a nut, right? I mean,
Well,
that's
yes.
the general idea.
That's correct.
So without getting into a full discussion about it, it's the concept. Except that when I took that concept and I applied it to the different categories, it seemed to be inconsistent. For instance, if you were a groundsman in 2011 in the proposed budget, the total expenditure is actually 22% less than the actual audited number from 2009, just 2 years ago, which is the last year that we actually have audited numbers for at this point. But if you look at the security guards, you're actually, in the 2011 proposed budget, making 18% more than was the actual audited number from December 2009. So I guess it's better to be a security guard than to be a groundsman based on that, because one is going up by 18%, one is going down by 22%, so that's a swing of about 40% on two different categories when we're applying the same passive park scheduling concept to them both. So I didn't understand why there would be such a disparity. And I took that and decided that the security guards and the cashiers, who are also up about 12% from 2009, could be cut by the same percentage as the groundsmen and the attendants. So based on that, I'm going to be proposing that we actually reduce the wages expenditures by about at least another $30,000 so that we can begin to close the budget gap here.
Well, can you help me understand that when you say reduce the budget expenditures? Help me understand what that means.
Well, right now, security guards are slated to get $77,750 in 2011, whereas in 2009 they were only getting $65,000. I don't see how it can be going up when we're talking about actually reducing their numbers and reducing the amount of hours they work. So I think that at a minimum it should be no more than the $65,000 that it was at in 2009. And then, as I said, when you look at the groundsmen, for instance, in 2011 they're supposed to get $102,000, and in 2009 they got $131,000. So they've actually gone down significantly. So I'm just trying to get a basis for understanding where the numbers are coming from, and looking at it in a way where I can get the lowest number possible. I'm suggesting that we reduce the ones that have gone up to be commensurate with the ones that have gone down.
Well, I think, excuse me. Go ahead.
There were some operational changes from 2009 to 2010. If you'll remember, you added a significant charge to get onto the beach during fireworks nights. We have extra security guards for that. We brought in, frankly, in 2010, we brought in extra security guards. If you look at the labor comparison I left you from 2009, 2010, you'll see that in 2009 we only had 8 security guards. We're budgeting 9 security guards in 2011. Again, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to manage the park in a way that we think is proper and safe for the people that go there. We're trying to take into account the various security issues that have occurred. We have implemented the passive park program, but the passive park is really a pre-April, post-September phenomena, not during the season. So during the season, I have 9 guys instead of 8 guys in what the numbers you're trying to compare. So the relevance isn't necessarily there. The same thing if you look at the groundskeepers. In 2009, we had 17. In 2010, we have 12. In 2011, we're going with 10.
Yeah, I think, and this is what I meant, Commissioner Sack, when I said, what does it mean to take it out $30,000? I think these are all excellent questions. And, we're all trying to achieve the same objective. The question, I have, I don't have any experience running a park, but is the right number of groundskeepers 17, 12, 10? Is the right number of security guards 8, 12?
Sorry, just want to answer either. I absolutely do not know the answer, but I'm just looking year over year.
I understand.
My analysis is completely just based on what I saw happen in 2009, 2010.
No, right. So there are fair questions, and so the answer is, that they change the operations and that kind of thing. I guess, the question is, I think that we might want to consider, and at some point in time, potentially getting in a parks operation expert, which will incorporate some additional expense, but, have somebody with, efficiency, training, and experience to come in and look at, what is the right number of people for each of these positions? How do we maximize them? Look, we're all, volunteers on a board, trying to project policy in a very difficult economic environment. So I think the questions are very fair. And I don't think, unfortunately, we're not unfortunately. Fortunately, we've got a very committed staff that has, trying to work with the bare minimum. And again, I think we look at the security guards, and is it 8 or 9? Is it the groundskeepers, et cetera, et cetera. We did put out, as Bishop mentioned, an RFP for the maintenance of the park. I think there may be some way to take some cost out that way that's not in this budget. So I think that, I guess the question is, and this is a question for the board, really. I don't know if in your municipalities also, if you've looked, or even in your business experience, how do we make the public confident that we have the absolute right number of people at each of the positions? I think the questions are all fair, and unfortunately, I don't have a good answer. I mean, at some point.
Well, I probably out of all the people on this board, I spent the most time at the park last year, and the overall user experience was great. The staff was great. We had the right number of personnel, but you could see come the month of September, you saw it in August with the demand, that we were totally overstaffed, and nobody was using the park. So I think we can considerably scale down our operation in September, and maybe we leave that as something to evaluate as the season goes on. Do we really need to be staffing at that level? I saw a lot of staff standing around, and there not being that many people in the park, and that's consistent with the user experience.
Now, let me just see.
On Labor Day, everybody,
that's something we should talk a bit about. And again, I again appreciate what you said, Mayor Feinstein. I apologize. We only got these to you Saturday night, and there's a lot of different documents.
Some of this we didn't get Saturday night. Some of it is we're getting for the first time this evening.
Right.
And that's very difficult. And and I don't mean it to be a criticism, but if we're going to look at this and being proactive and ask questions, it's very difficult to do this at a meeting. Sure. I know that I need time to prepare.
Right.
I'm just saying that.
I'd also like Salanitro and Mayor Pilla here as well, so that's something to consider.
Absolutely. Mayor, I don't know what happened. Do we know what happened to Mayor Pilla this evening? Or Salanitro? No? Okay.
And the other point in terms of the user experience is we also talked about the fact that we're staffing to pay people to get on the beach at night to get $2. And if you just do the volume of the numbers, how many people are we talking about? 100 people a night? $200?
$200 to $400.
Right. So for $200, $400 times 20 nights, what are you talking about? Not that much. $4,000, and we're staffing and we're collecting and we're overseeing. Maybe we just get out of that business. We just have security guards to manage crowd control, but we're not collecting $2 and covering the whole expense. So I think some of those policy decisions, maybe we could do more due diligence, and then as the season goes on, make some of those decisions.
Well, I think you have to do that you're right, going forward to do a cost-benefit analysis and to see whether or not, as you said, the assumptions are realistic, or whether or not from a policy point of view. And I
think that's very fair. We've kicked this back and forth. I know, Commissioner Sack, you're very concerned about expenditures. We talked about, recommending, cost reductions. My only concern is we're going to be here every month doing the same thing. And I think unless somebody takes the bull by the horns and says, I'm going to be responsible for, the staff's made their recommendation. The staff's saying this is what we think makes sense. Again, I guess, Paul, you didn't have as much of a chance this time to look at the costs and expenditures. We certainly welcome and encourage you to do that. Again, this is a very different budget than other municipalities because we can project whatever we want. Quite frankly, I think we're going to be hard-pressed to generate an operating deficit of only $15,000. My expectation is going to be higher than that. I'll go on record as saying that.
I'm going to be optimistic and say weather, of course, is one of those variables. But once again, I think I said this 2 years ago. with the cost of gas being what it is, you may get more and more people from local into the park.
I just,
I don't.
yeah, I mean, we
See
can
whether or not.
do a friendly wager, at lunch at
Okay.
Rod or, but my concern, I think we're going to, my goal is to get expenditures down to an absolute minimum. But I think if you look for the history of the last 15 years that we saw earlier, I think, and with the reduced parking that we have, we're going to be hard-pressed to match last year's $100,000 deficit.
Well, how are we doing as far as the letters went out earlier this year for permits and the like? How's the response been so far?
Well, it's a little early. We have received probably 100 permit renewals already. I mean, just in today's mail alone, there were over 20. The permit renewal for people with existing permits went out a couple of weeks ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The resident mailing, which was sent out, that's the 16,000 pieces, went out. It literally is hitting people's houses this week. I got mine at home on Monday. So our phones at town are ringing off the hook, and mail appears to be coming in. We think it's going to be a successful program, at least we're hoping.
I think, and I have to compliment the fact that this went up much earlier than last year. I think that was really important that we finalized the pricing so that we could get that early push in marketing.
Can I make a suggestion? I'm looking at the time. I know we have a hard stop. Can I make a suggestion? I'd like to maybe suggest. I'm happy to vote on tonight, but I don't think we're ready to vote on tonight. So what I'd like to suggest is have one last budget working session this Friday. If Paula were available, with Bishop and the Rye-Town staff are available, I will be there, and any of the commissioners there, if Friday worked, and go through staffing levels, by category, makes absolutely certain that we've, done it, and then we're going to have to monitor it throughout the year, and then say, look, this is the expenditure. Now, the revenue, that's got more, once we set the tariffs, that's got more God than it is us. And I know he's on our side, but so I really want to make sure we get the expenditure right and as low as we can. So I'm happy to propose, and I'd like to be there as well. And if people have time on Friday, I don't know, Paul, if you're available on Friday.
Chairman, I love the idea. One of the best things we did last year is we all walked the park together, and I think in addition to budget discussion, we walked the park and go through the operational changes to say, all right, this is how things are going to flow, because we're opening up in, what, 3 or 4 weeks? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think we'll have a budget discussion, then let's talk about, the signs and the traffic flow.
Wonderful, great. Well, so we'll meet, we'll do it, why don't we do it at the park? Fred and Bill, you guys available Friday park? What time is good for everybody? You want to start early in the morning or late afternoon?
It has to be afternoon.
Afternoon, okay.
You'll have a meeting Friday afternoon.
What meeting is that?
Oh, that's right, Friday at 1 o'clock. You will.
1 o'clock.
The three of you have meetings.
We have a meeting.
Which one is it again?
Dissolution. We're interviewing on Friday afternoon.
Oh, yeah, okay, great. So 3 o'clock? We'll be through by 3, won't we?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean,
3:30?
3:30 would probably be a better time.
Okay. Is that 3:30, Paula?
3:30. Right.
Commissioner Sack? All right. Fred and Bill? Good. All right, and that gives them people have time and
May I just to say one other thing? When
Please.
you look at the numbers and everything else, just the labor costs for 2010 do not match up to the December 2010 draft numbers, which are, I think, final, right?
Pretty close, yes.
Okay, so just, I don't know which is, if those are the final, then these numbers don't match up.
Well, can I?
So just to look at that.
Mayor
one-
Feinstein, what I was going to, between now and Friday, if you had questions that you want to send us, we will get answers to them, and that's very helpful. If you want any of those kinds of questions, if you could send them to us. Commissioner Sack, are you good for Friday, 3:30?
I may not be able to make it. If I could change something else that I have, I will be there, but at this point, I won't be there, but I certainly will, send, I guess, an email with all my questions and concerns.
Wonderful.
I mean, to the extent that we have a little more time tonight, maybe we could go through some of them now. I mean,
Well, because I would have to stipulate that I will guarantee an answer to all your questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you send them to us, and obviously we'll make them available to the public. I'm not trying to hide anything.
All right, yeah.
We'll get you answers to each of your questions.
So 3:30 at Fred's office Friday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Terrific.
May I just
Please.
There, on the capital expense fund there, we've got some projects lined up that are timely because we need to order equipment, we have all the bids in, and like, for instance, water fountains in the park, there are no water fountains right now. They're shot and they're gone. The showers, we need to be ready for the end of May, and same with the stalls in the bathrooms where the partitions are falling down. So I don't know if it's possible that you might be able
We
to,
need an answer tonight, Fred?
well, we have to order equipment, and we
We'll
have
do
to...
the walking tour, though, Friday, right?
Can we give, well, we have a quorum? We have a quorum, no, will we have a quorum on Friday? In other words, or can the board, was the board happy for us to authorize the capital expenditure? How much money are we talking about, Fred?
Well,
5% of the budget, though.
in the budget is 50,000, but...
No, but how much are the urgent expenditures we're talking about?
Water fountains.
Water fountains.
Water fountains are under 3,000.
6,000 is two of them.
The partitions for the stalls are 12,000, and the showers?
All of these need to be made before the next board meeting? How much are
Yeah.
need to be, okay,
But we need to have them running by
right.
Memorial Day.
All right. So what was, I'm sorry, so could you,
For instance, the water fountains,
so water fountains, how much?
6,000 for water fountains, there's two at 3,000.
All right, 6,000 for water fountains. Boy, those,
they're expensive, but they'll last 50 years.
all right. And are they going to put the names of the commissioners on it?
Can we just authorize half
There'll also be-
that fund?
There'll also be handicap accessible.
Yeah, half that fund should,
If we authorize half the
and we
50,000
could
now.
get going on ordering it, lining up the plumbers that are going to put it in, and things like that.
That would be helpful.
Well, I mean, I was frankly going to be looking at that line to take some money out. I mean, we're already starting with a $65,000 deficit. I mean, we have this $105,000 general maintenance needs fund, which is more than 10% of the budget, and I was going to ask for more specificity as to what's in there. Maybe the money for the water fountains can come out of that.
Well, actually, this is a good point, because, and I think this is a conversation we can have today, because it's more policy. In other words, we have the operating budget, and I think we've agreed to spend Friday and reduce the operating deficit as much as possible, and review each labor category, which is the bulk of the expense. So we'll do that on Friday. Now, there's a separate conversation, regardless of whether you have an operating deficit or surplus, you're going to have capital expenditure needs. And the question is, how much can we, can we do without a water fountain this year? Can we do without the shower stalls? Can we do without those kinds of things? I think we can have that conversation now, because it's more of an ongoing, the conversation is not operational specific. So maybe, Fred, could you make the case for the urgent capital expenditures, water fountains? The water fountains don't work?
They're destroyed. They rotted away, and they're gone. So there's no water fountains outside of the beach. The ones on the beach, are they workable? Yeah. So there's one water fountain for the whole beach, and
Right, so that's, okay, well, so that, and that's the water fountains. And what are the other,
well, that expenditure is about $3,000.
3 or 6?
What'd you say?
6,
Two water fountains, that's 3,000.
right.
2 water fountains.
So that's $6,000.
Total is
Total 6, each water fountain, $3,000.
2 water fountains. The ones for up by the bathrooms and the one by the administration building is $3,000. Period.
All told.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And that's the most urgent right now. The showers, we can prepare for them. We've been trying to fix them for years. The showers are something that we want to make.
This is the North showers?
Yeah.
Well, I use those North showers. I mean, what
Well,
are
you have the pull-down handle. We have to call in a plumber at least 4 or 5 times a season. We want to hit the button and it stays on for a minute, like we have down in the lower showers. We need to take care of them and the ones in the tunnels. Now, that's a 16,000 expenditure, you said?
All right, we'll look at those on Friday. We're not going to get, I don't think we need pre-approval for those on Friday, right?
No, the most urgent right now are the water fountains
Okay.
in general.
Just something to think about in the future. We know that the park, there will always be capital expenditures that are needed every single year. Absolutely. And I'm wondering whether or not we should have an intermunicipal agreement with the town and the Park Commission and the City of Rye, because actually it's the town and the city who are responsible for capital expenditures, where you have a set amount every single year. And the reason I'm pointing this out, the Village of Portchester, I'm going to analogize, the Village of Portchester and the Village of Rybrook, we fund the library. And one of the things that we came up with was so that we don't go have this thing every single year. You know that they're going to be capital expenditures. You're running a facility, an infrastructure. Maybe this forthcoming year, that can really be discussed. So there's certainty. You have an agreement going forward, and that way, City of Rye knows what to budget, Town of Rye knows what to budget.
Yeah,
And
I
therefore,
don't have a
you're
problem
not,
with that.
and you're not coming here to plead with us on...
I think that's right.
Well, it's the
That
third
was,
year I've been asking for
I
the
know.
order.
I'm just thinking that that would be a really good goal to look at some sort of intermunicipal agreement.
see, this is our conundrum, Mayor Feinstein. You're absolutely right. That $50,000 capital expense fund is precisely
That's it.
attempts to do that.
I know, but if you have it set up going forward,
Yeah.
you know they're going to be expenses.
Right.
Just a
Yep.
thought.
I agree.
I think it's a good suggestion, and
I agree with
yep, we should pull that together.
Right.
Good.
So Mayor Feinstein,
The one that you can discuss tonight or approve tonight would be the water fountains, because people
Yep,
need
Mayor
to drink
Feinstein,
water.
right.
yeah, I think we do the water fountains, but also, when we do our capital budget in August discussion, somebody from Rye Town Park would come and present to the Rye City Council and say, these are the things that we want to put into the capital plan, right?
Absolutely. That's an
As
excellent.
part of the joint IMA, and they could do the same thing for Rye Town.
Do we have an IMA?
We could do that.
No.
We should, that's an excellent, that's a
When
good
it comes to
suggestion.
capital, we should have an IMA,
We
yeah.
should have it, and I think it would satisfy the requirements of both municipalities, and also that it would benefit the parks in the park in the long run.
Perfect. Well, why don't we should we have Mr. Noto, do you want to have your guys draft one, or should we have Mr. Noto draft an IMA?
I can have Kristen, our corporation counsel, just pull a standard IMA, and
Yeah,
then we'll have a
beautiful.
separate meeting with Bishop and
Great.
Scott and...
Fantastic. Good. Thank you, Mayor Feinstein. It's an excellent suggestion.
So, the water fountain.
So, he wants the water fountains. All right, can we get some board support that if, as a part of the walkthrough, we can spend up to $10,000, or how, Commissioner Sackey?
I mean, standing alone, it's hard to argue with water fountains, right? But I guess if they've truly disintegrated, that means that they weren't operational last year either.
Well, one of them was ready to fall down, it was moving, and the other one was the only one that was working, and now that's rotted out.
So, but we
There's
we
no
made it
water
through-
fountains there.
But we made it through last year without the water fountain.
We didn't make it quite through the whole season.
You had them operational for some part of the season.
Yeah.
If we want to make the park attractive, we don't want people to bring plastic bottles. I think you should have water
Okay.
fountains.
Yes to the water fountain.
Yes.
Mr. Stickett, we don't want Commissioner Sack known as the water fountain Sack.
I hope so.
Well, how can you have a beach without water fountain?
Okay, I think we have approval to move forward with that.
Well, I'll make a motion that we authorize the park manager to buy $6,000 worth of new water fountains.
And I second that.
Wonderful. Mr. Nowotnik, can you give me get a
Okay?
roll call?
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Feinstein?
Yes,
Commissioner Sack?
Yes.
Commissioner Carvin?
Yes.
Okay, so who seconded that?
I did.
Okay.
Okay, now, we've got a lot to cover in a short period of time, and I do want to give the public a chance to speak. So, in terms of the parking automation, thank you so much, Paula.
Thank you.
Parking automation RFP.
That's primarily for your edification. You approved us assembling this. I just wanted to let the commissioners know. This came in late last night via email. I've put it in the hands of Benny Salanitro for review. We've also asked other people just to review the basic specs, and we will be processing this thing and getting it out the door in the next week or two.
The RFP, which we've already discussed.
This is the guts of the specification, so if the commissioners can review this, if there are any issues, shortcomings that you see that are in these specifications, or inconsistencies that you might see, if you could bring them to our attention, we still have time before we put...
All right, and Commissioner Salanitro is taking the lead on helping develop this
Yes,
RFP, correct?
that is correct.
So if we could ask the board to send any comments they have on the guts of this RFP to Commissioner Salanitro, that'd be much appreciated.
And the citizen group, I'm sure, has seen this already, Bishop.
I think we forwarded it to
Okay,
them.
good.
But again, would you please make sure that they have, and
Certainly.
again, similarly, the citizens group, if they could forward their comments as well, that'd be much appreciated.
By the way, this is a direct result of a meeting that we had at Rye-Town Park with the Citizens Committee, with the Rye-Town Park staff, and with the engineering staff from Court Cashless. So everybody was there at the time, and it was raining.
And I think, and if we can get Court Cashless to deliver more timely response, that'd be helpful. I know we've been pushing them.
Yeah,
hard.
well, we pushed them as hard as we could.
Yeah.
I can only say that they were supposed to be in a bit earlier.
Okay. Citizens attendance plan.
Right. Now, this is an item that Mayor French had asked to have put on.
Yep.
I don't know if that person is here, if they...
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the things we did last year, if you remember, Chairman, is we did public forums at the park. We've also, and there were a lot of good ideas generated, we also established a Rye-Town Park Advisory Committee, and one of the objectives of this commission is to get more residents into the park. So they've taken a crack at it, and Stephanie, welcome.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, great. I got to tell you, I'm loving all this citizen participation. It makes us much better. This is great. Thank you. Wow.
Have you added more? Looks like you've added more.
We have added more.
Oh, okay.
Enrich the process. Yes.
So just by way,
See that this is a dynamic process.
Wow.
by way of time, what do you think, about 10 minutes?
Okay, thank you.
You have 10 minutes,
Yeah,
you have 10 minutes,
we'll
that'd be great, thank you.
So thank you for letting us come today. As you know,
I'm sorry, could you just tell the people at home your name?
Sure. I'm Stephanie Spearings.
Thank you, Stephanie.
This is Jeannie Golden and Eleanor White.
Thank you, thanks so
And
much.
essentially, we are a subcommittee of this advisory committee, and our sort of charter is really improving security, safety, and really bringing people back to the park. So we're going to be quick. We've, throughout the year, have done a lot of reconnaissance. We've met with park staff. We've met with some folks on the Friends of Rye-Town Park, and we have some recommendations and some feedback that we think will be pretty material to share with you guys. So you can start.
All right. So, important things first, and what I'd like to do, just briefly, is to focus comments in 3 areas. And those 3 areas are improving parking safety, improving parking safety, keeping people and cars apart. Secondly, safety and security throughout the park, and we'll touch on several key areas there. And creating a culture of excellence and visitor-focused service, something that's already done pretty well, and we commend the improvements that were made in 2010, and we'd like to build upon that.
Can I just
So
stop?
starting-
I couldn't agree with that more, and Fred and Bill, I want to see a marked improvement this year. I couldn't agree with that more. I want to thank you for recognizing the improvement and the effort was made last year, but, as Murphy's Law, every time I ended up in the park, it was one of those days where I really want to see, I want to see this new model park. And, I know Mayor French spent a lot of time down at the park last year, so thank you for the recommendations. And any help you can get us in achieving that. I mean, the T-shirts, the whole, I just came from the Disney cruise, so maybe the whole Disney attitude, but I know we made a lot of good efforts every year, and I really want to.
Yep. Well, that's a good point. Letting people know who you are when you're working for the park, and a friendly smile, and approaching people and asking if you can help them, not waiting for them to struggle and ask you, is always a good thing. So back to the parking safety and security. The first area that we'd like to touch on is traffic flow, and a lot of consideration was given to traffic flow in 2010, and important strides made. But, and here's the but, we have, as you'll look through these slides, you'll see that we've put some pictures in there of things that we found happening all too frequently. And that is, in the traffic flow, bringing cars across the pedestrian bridge, and then around the perimeter that is, is the restricted park recreation, visitor recreation areas. We brought cars into the temptation of wandering into those restricted areas, and it happened frequently. And it happened much to the surprise of people thinking they were in an area that was safe and should be free of cars, as we gave them a reasonable expectation to have. Bringing traffic, a consideration of bringing traffic back over into two-way traffic and adjacent to the parking area, so keeping traffic on the, I believe it would be the west side of the pond,